All right, Damion, I appreciate you being here. You have not just an incredible story, but I mean, a story for the ages, a story for TV, it feels like. Do you feel that way sometimes?
I had somebody that ran the pickup artist, the MTV VH1 thing, and he was friends with a buddy of mine. My buddy goes, my friend heard, or my guy that runs this thing said, your dating history should be a reality show. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And so I just sometimes I've heard that, but probably not in the context that you were talking about it. But it is kind of a funny thing to hear.
Yeah, when it comes to the reality TV side, you're like, oh, geez, is that a compliment or is that not? But I actually think potentially, based on what I know, the little bits of your story could be a reality show. It'd be, kind of similar to the Undercover Boss, but just or the Undercover Billionaire. But my goodness, you've done a lot. What, just from the top here, without the audience knowing much about you yet, what are you most proud of? What are you most excited about?
We were talking offline about Brad Lee and some people, and I met Brad Lee the same time I met Tim Grover years ago at a Grant Cardone event. And the reason I bring up Tim, he wrote a book called Resilience, another one called Winning. And the thing I'm proud about is that no matter what happens, how many shit salads I get, I move through it and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to digest it. I'm going to take the scars. And having launched 70 plus companies over the last 30 years and gone homeless and lost, tens of millions of dollars, like all those things mixed in with this, there was just never a thought of I'm going to quit. And that is what I realized over time is that is not normal. Most people don't start because they will quit or something goes wrong. They're like, I'm never doing that again. For me, I'm like, oh, cool. I just learned something that I can leverage. So learning is this leverage, and most people miss it because they never actually go do anything. And that's what gives me this advantage. I'm willing to go endure massive amounts of pain through all these experiences that mostly didn't work, but they gave me all the firepower. So now I have the muscle.
Exactly. This is interesting. I was having a conversation with someone else who runs a community, not exactly like Gathering the Kings, but a similar type format. We were talking about people who want to join, or they want to sign up for a coaching program, or they want to start a business, like whatever the thing is that they're considering. They know that they want to do it, but then they say things like, but if I can't, but I'm not going to finish, or like from the beginning, I'm not going to hold to the diet, or I'm not going to XYZ. They know that they need to. It's like literally the thing in front of them that they absolutely know that they should do for all the right reasons. But because they're actually aware enough to know that they won't do it, they just never even start. It's like you're so self-aware that you shot yourself in the foot. What?
Here's the good news. You'll save yourself a lot of money. Because the people that go and they start coaching, they start different things, whether it's a coach, financial, business, a health coach, whatever. The people that aren't committed are they're literally the ones that are like, I don't know if this coach is going to work out. The ones that are committed are like, I don't even care if my coach shows up. I'm going to go do the damn work and I'm going to get it done. And the coach is there to give you a reflective mirror. And so it's really interesting when somebody says, I don't know, man, this coach is a lot of money, or this program, I don't know if it's going to work for me. I'm like, the problem is you're not willing to work for you. And that's where the differentiator is with coaches. You can hire Tony Robbins. Tony ain't going to do it for you. Tony's great, but other coaches could do more for you if you're the one that's going to drive them and drag them along. And that's the difference, man. Most people just aren't committed. And once you're committed, nothing can get in your way. And honestly, almost any coach can help you get there because you're just using them as a sounding board in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I love the resilience piece that you're talking about is kind of fighting through things. How did you come to the place where you were calloused or numb, to all the types of salads that you've been given, where it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. You already know that you've developed that muscle. Was there a turning point? Was there a moment where you were just like, okay, I've been given so many crap scenarios that I already know, I believe in me. I've got the muscle. Like, was there a particular moment or tell me about this?
It kind of phases. It's not a moment in time. For the last 30 years of doing all these things. I mean, I got thrown out of college because I started a bookstore on campus, and they didn't like that I put the bookstore out of business. They were pissed. Like, hey, we need somebody to sell pencils. I'm like, no, you don't. You need to save money for the students. And so I did that. And so, you get attacked just like Elon's getting attacked by all sorts of people. And it's at some point you just start, you trust yourself more. And the more you do, the less you care about what other people think, because you believe in your mission, you believe in your vision. That's why this idea of purpose is so much different than the idea of passion. Passion, it's like, hey, I want to feel good. I want people to like me. Purpose, You're like, I don't really care if they even understand me because I see where I'm going and I know that that's going to benefit other people. And that's a big shift for people. They want it to be fun. And so when it's not fun, they move to the next passion. And the purpose, you stop caring. That's the ultimate freedom. When you stop caring what other people think and you trust yourself more than you trust anything else, that's the big shift.
I mean, you've just got a wrap here and you're giving us information that I'm thinking the audience is listening going, yeah, I like this. But what they don't realize is that the person that's given them this information has built hundreds of millions, lost a ton in multiple different industries, and is like just given the same, not same, giving the quality mindset that actually success requires. A lot of what you've shared are some of the most old success tactics that never are going to go away. And I'm seeing the smirk on your face. Talk about this. How did you learn them? Or was it just through the muscle? I mean, I just feel like some people just, they think, like Think and Grow Rich, or they hear a podcast like this and like, oh yeah. Like, I like that. That's good. But then again, they don't apply it. They don't go do anything.
And that's the key. It's when I first started, the people that were around me, and this is the case for most people, the people that are around us are not the people that we want to become. But the problem is, until we start spending time elsewhere, we're going to keep getting pulled down with the crabs in the box. It's the old story where if you're in a box and you're a crab, the other crabs are going to keep you in the box even when you want to escape. They're going to do everything they can. And so I started spending all my time with guys like Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins, and people were like, wow, that must be a huge advantage. How'd you do that? I'm like, I bought their damn tapes and then I burned the tapes out. You can do the same thing. You can get a digital version of it, so you don't have to get a tape, because how the hell are you going to play a tape? But
some of these listeners are like, tape? What is that?
What's it? Is that a thing? Like a physical thing? Some things weren't digital, like back in 30 years ago. But the key there is you just inundate yourself so it becomes normalized. And it's this core information. There's all these cool books that are coming out every year. Like, as an author of many books, I look at the books that are coming out. I'm like, man, that's a cool concept. Boil it down for me. Like, I want to know what the essence is, because what you realize is, like you said, there are core principles. And if you really start everything from first principle thinking, it's all the same stuff, just rehashed, regurgitated, reformatted, and repackaged. And so, like Think and Grow Rich, or the Bible, or these core places where you get information, if you go back to those things and you study those and then you apply them, you have to apply them. You can have all the theory in the world, but how many PhDs do we know that are broke, that are sitting there going, man, and they die with their potential intact? I guess that's really, really sad. So you have to take that thing. They could be one dang book that you launch $1 billion empire. You could read Think and Grow Rich and then implement it. But I guarantee you, every time you implement it and go back to it, you're like, oh, I didn't read this the same way I read it the first time. After I did something, I'm coming back a new person with a new mindset, a new spirit. And so you keep studying these things. Books aren't meant to be read. They're meant to be studied, but you got to pick correctly and then go deep.
Yeah, I love that. I was just doing a deep dive on one of the chapters in Think and Grow Rich inside of our community just yesterday. And I had mentioned that I used to read Think and Grow Rich yearly. I used to go on an elk hunt 2 weeks out of the year, take the book with me. I'm, in elk country and there's no electronics or anything like that anyway. So it's perfect timing. I can just study and write and highlight. Last year, I ended up reading it probably 6 or 7 times, but every single time it was like, I was searching for the new thing, because I knew that there would be a new thing, and there was, and I got some just incredible stuff last year. Excited to read it again this year. I haven't read it again yet, but I've already gotten a Laws of Success in once this year. So I'm excited about that. Okay. I'm going to backtrack, but maybe fast forward here all at the same time. But you're 30 years old, $20 million profile or portfolio, and it's gone. What the heck happened? And tell me, in the scenario of that, why you didn't just crawl into a hole and just say, you know what, fine. Life, you take it.
Well, the funny part is I did crawl into a hole for a period of time, and then I decided to get out of it. And what I've seen most people do is that they're so afraid of getting into the hole, they never attempt. And then if they end up in the hole, they never get out.
Right.
The thing that happened is that my wealth expanded past my spirit. It expanded past a mission. And that was,
say that again. Hold on. Your wealth expanded past your spirit. What do you mean by that?
It means that we have a certain being alignment between what we have and who we are, and deeply where our spirit embodies. And so if there's not an alignment with those, that's why people tend to be the same thing. They have the same wealth. They have the same health. There's just a continuity. And if you're going to shift something, you have to shift all of it, not just physically, not just the bank account. Because why do lottery winners lose all their money? Because they don't have an alignment. When you have an alignment, everything's working together. It's like, what does somebody say? What do they believe? What do they do? And I mean, I can tell you from personal, watching business partners, watching clients, people that are investors, I watch them say things and even maybe have some beliefs. And then I watch them not show up, and I go, you're literally a liar, pants on fire. Like, what And so if you don't do those things, and most people, when the money shows up, if there's a big surge, they don't have a plan, and they haven't developed the muscle, the spiritual muscle, and that takes time. And there is no hack. There's no 4-hour hack to developing that thing. And I love Tim Ferriss, but it's a process, and you develop it over time. You develop it by scar tissue, and you develop it by philosophical transcendental meditation or praying, or like there's a process, and it's you growing as a human being. So it's why it's crazy to say I want to become a billionaire when I'm 20, even though, look, like there are people we know that have done that. So in terms of money, these things you shift over a period of time if you're willing to keep stretching. But anybody that works out knows if you go there and you say, I'm going to start from zero and then go to try to squat 400 pounds, you're going to blow your knees out and probably snap your back. You got to build up to it. But ultimately you can, and then you'll never be able to go back, because when you break a certain frequency, when you're acting a certain way, and then you pop into a new level,
yep,
and you're there, that's your new normal. You're never going back. It's the caterpillar transformation into a butterfly. It can't go backwards. It's physically impossible. And so it's the same thing when you have an alignment, but it doesn't happen just because you say, I am a billionaire. No, you're not. And when going back to what happened, I went from being a guy that bought a bunch of houses, had 150 houses, and then all of a sudden I had millions of dollars, and I thought, oh, I'm Donald Trump. So I went out there and ended up all over the country in all these projects, thinking I'm going to easily make $1 million or $2 million on each of these 7 projects. And I easily lost $1 million or more on each of the 7. I went from 20 million to negative 5 million in 12 months. I did not have alignment. My whole system was dropping down into the least common denominator to create homeostasis between the different elements. Right. That's what happens for everybody, and you can fight it, or you can just acknowledge it and say, okay, how do I bring everything up? Because if you don't, you will fall down to that, wherever the lowest is, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it's going to drop down. That's how things work.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that the listener takes my advice right this second and pause and they re-listen to what you just said at least 3 times, because everything that you just described, most people have never heard of. And then even if they have heard of it, they're shaking their head going, oh, that sounds good. It's like, no. Please stop and rewind and listen, because, Damion's giving you the straight, like behind the scenes of like 3 layers back. He's giving you the spiritual content here. So, all right, so let's fast forward. You're working on some really, really cool stuff. You had this super low moment. You're homeless. You overcome that. And I might dip back into that. So don't think I'm leaving it behind, but you're working on some super cool stuff right now. FrameTech is a company that you're working on right now that is basically changing housing. I want you to tell me just real quick here, the mission behind that and what you're working on there. And I got some questions.
So here's what FrameTech is. It's a solution to a problem. The problem is houses are expensive and we're not building enough. We've got between 5 and 10 million missing houses, which is a $2 trillion situation. And we've got governments that aren't helping. The regulations alone, Chaz, create about 30% of the value of a home, meaning it costs 30% more because governments are in the way.
Interesting.
And so I was having a conversation with Paulo, the founder of Boxable, a couple of days ago in Vegas, and he was sharing some of this stuff. And so we're actually working with him to help reduce the amount of regulation so we can reduce the price, the housing. And it's a great time in history because we have somebody in the White House that's all about slashing and burning the bloat, a lot of the regulations. And our FrameTech's particular part of the solution is to figure out how we create more supply, because in economics, more supply, if you have a similar demand, you're going to have a lower price. So what we're doing is we created a way we're a vertically integrated framing company. And what we're doing different, we're not nibbling around the edges saying we're 5% better. We are literally building framing for housing 4 times faster than traditional on-site framing. We're doing it 10 times better, meaning 10 times better quality. So it looks like furniture instead of wobbly frames that aren't lined up. And we're doing it with 99% less waste. So what all that means is that this is an exponentially different system for construction, which doesn't change. Like the last innovation was 1954, was the damn nail gun. So people don't change it. They just live off the fat of the land. And we had a different vision. It's about solving a housing crisis, tired of seeing people homeless, tired of seeing 20 somethings going, I got to move back in with mom and dad. There's no way I'm ever going to own a house. Right. And that's what FrameTech is. It's a solution where everybody wins. The communities win, the environment wins, the investors win. It's very cool when there's literally stakeholder success across the board. Nobody's getting, there's one loser. The legacy thinking and the legacy system, that loses, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, I would say anybody that's going to be stuck in their thinking that they don't deserve to win. They're not thinking about winning, actually, right? Like you said, there's living on the fat of the land. Okay, so someone who has, a track record of success and, just a lot of, you said 70 companies, hundreds of millions, and just all this, history behind you. Why FrameTech? Why this particular industry? Why this problem? What spoke to you about what you just described that makes you, come into purpose with that?
So it's funny because it's sort of like dating, and I'm not married, never been married, but what I understand is that if you're on a hunt for somebody and you're just going to go dominate somebody, it's probably not going to be a very mutually beneficial relationship with circulation. Right. Like you're going to come to somebody, your partner, at the same time they're going to come. Like it's the timing, and you're at a similar place in life. Like things are going to work. That's what happened with FrameTech. The idea and the team came together with me when everybody was ready. We all had the decades of getting our butts kicked by the world and learning the things, coming together with a work ethic and a vision and a tenacity and a resilience and the credibility with relationships. When these guys and I sat down a few years ago, they said, here's what we have. We have this idea. And I said, it's a cool idea, but what's really cool is you guys. And so I'm going to bet on you. And so I committed $40 million over lunch. And that's how I look at things. It's about the timing of things, and it's about trusting. It's about relationships. So there's a great book called the Speed of Trust, which is a Covey book. And that's what we have here. So I was in a place where I could trust, and I could say, over lunch, I'm good. What do we need to do? And so I start writing $1 million checks within weeks, and they're going, oh my gosh, this is serious. Well, yeah, because they had become the people that a guy like me was willing to write checks for. And it makes it really easy to get things done, and we're doing things way faster. So that's how you get there. You like everybody, the timing and the how people had evolved. Really, the spiritual alignment was consistently the same. Like we were all in the same place, and it was mission based. It wasn't how are we going to make $1 billion. I mean, we're closing in on $1 billion valuation right now, and that's 3 years ago. We were a napkin. But was that the focus? No, the focus was on how do we serve humanity and do it in a scalable way for the most people possible with this idea and all of our experience. That's what we came to the table with. And so a whole bunch of people, 400 people plus, came on board and said, we want to fuel this thing with more money and surcharge or surge it. And that's what happens when you've got something beyond passion and fun and making money. You get this, you get providence from the universe, from God. It conspires with you, and people go, is that really true? I mean, I need a business model and a business plan. I'm like, man, if you've got the right thing and it's heart and experience and there's a problem that you're going to solve, watch what happens. It'll be from places you could never imagine, and it happens every time that way.
Tell me what it's like to be solving homelessness or a housing problem when, for all intents and purposes, not that long ago, you didn't even have one. You were down on your luck and completely homeless after your portfolio left. And now you're solving this huge problem. Like, what is that experience like?
The experience is money stops being a thing. And what I mean by that is I don't wake up in the morning and go, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make more money? Right. And when I started this thing, I didn't really have a lot. I mean, I had some money, but it wasn't I wasn't done. I just said, this is really important. And so I'm going in, and I pop up now and I go, it's been 3 years. What just happened? Because everybody is grinding and doing this thing. Back 15 years ago when I was homeless and I lost this money, even before that, when I had millions of dollars and I thought I was King Dingaling, 10 feet tall, bulletproof, and, like king of the world, there was this obsession about money. I was probably the biggest dick you'd ever meet. I wouldn't want to meet me now. Back like if I brought that guy here, I'd be like, oh, take him off this meeting. I don't want to. That guy's terrible. And there was this thing about money. Whereas now it's interesting because most people, let's be real, most people are thinking, I got to figure out how I'm going to feed myself and take care of my family, keep a roof over my head. Yeah. Most people don't have a mission that's so big and so compelling that it pulls them. Doesn't matter. The money ends up taking care of itself. And I can say that from experience. It's not some woo I read in a book last weekend. I'm like, oh, I'm going to profess the faith. I literally have done this where I go, wow, there's like more money. And then it's kind of an interesting, weird problem. And I go, okay, I'll deal with that. But I'm mostly focused on this mission. And when you have a big mission, it's like it spawns the wealth. But if you don't have a big mission, you're always chasing the wealth. And you're like a money bee instead of a honey bee. Like you got to know what your focus should be and stop chasing the damn money. But people tend to obsess around that their entire life, and it's never, ever, ever going to be enough. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. And so tell me the transition here. Cause I I think most people are wired for, I mean, we're all wired for survival, right? And it's just a matter of whether we come to a place mentally and strength wise to be able to overcome that and be able to start, I mean, thriving instead of striving. But we're all wired for survival, which is a negative way of thinking. And it keeps us focused on the wrong things like money. But for you, what was that transition like for you to be able to into that it's not about the money, that it's about mission and purpose? Did something happen to you in that midst that allowed for that?
It's the moment you choose to start spending some time and then a lot of time and then all your time on something that it's missional. And most people just don't have that. They may think that what they're doing is cool, but like the mission. And I always ask people when I'm talking to them, I'm like, okay, let's say I put $20 million in your bank account tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow? Or like, what are you doing for free? Are you the thing that you're doing right now, would you do this for free? Do you love the people you're with where you're like, I can't wait. I get up between 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning, which seems psychotic, but I can't wait to start. And I'm like, I look at my Aura ring and I'm thinking, man, I slept well and I'm ready to go. And it's because I'm so excited about doing, and some of the stuff I do is painful, but it's exciting to be part of this thing. And the difference is when you make the choice to start spending time in something that is serving externally. I was serving Damion, so it was very internal. I was like a really good hedonist, like, oh, I can spend and consume, like George Bush said after 9/11, go out there and spend money, be a good consumer. I'm like, man, I was a great consumer, but is that why I'm on earth? Like, am I going to be at my dying, breath and say, oh yeah, I was the world's best consumer. That is why I was here. No, I'm going to be really proud of the work I've been doing. And that's the big shift when you start saying, I can't wait to get up to do the thing. And I don't hear very many people saying that.
Yeah, no, I don't either. What do you think keeps people from that outside of the obvious that they're stuck in survival, or is that it?
That's a big part of it. And it's not necessarily that they're stuck in survival. They've created a feedback loop around survival. So if you think about the basic survival, like these basic things, like a roof over your head so you're not freezing to death, and food and basic stuff, it doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, let's be real. It doesn't take a lot and you can, unless you're in prison, you've got lots of flexibility. You can move different places. What people have done is they've built this loop where they're like, oh, I need more. And then their survival keeps expanding and they got to keep chasing more money to keep surviving. If you're listening, I'm air quoting surviving, because it's about what you think you need, and there's a never-ending push towards the things that you need, which are really wants. The wants keep us stuck in that loop where we're never free. It's the consumption prison. We got to have a newer car. We got to have a bigger house. We got to have whatever it is. Like for kids, we got to have coaches for everything that they do starting when they're 3 years old. Like it's never ending. So we're always in this survival mode, which means you're always chasing, which means you're never really free to be missional based because you're always exhausted. And then you go, shoot, I gotta go for some beer and some football, man, because I got nothing left in the tank. And that's where most people are, because they're not willing to acknowledge what is really a want and what's really a need, and what they're doing to satisfy other people's perception of what they should be doing, instead of saying, what's really important for me? Am I willing to stand here and have people condemn me and criticize me and laugh at me? Or am I just going to go with what they want, and then I'm going to spend my life chasing something and never really being fulfilled?
Yeah, so big. I'm sure we could have an entire podcast on this, but I'm going to challenge them to listen to you.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Jazz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other grow.
Repeat that section, listener. Do yourself a favor. Kind of along the same lines, talking about wealth. Obviously, you're in the wealth creation industry as well. I'm actually curious to know of all of your companies, but you talk about the 9 costly mistakes that lead to wealth, and that sounds like almost like an inverse. Like, wait a second, 9. I'm going to mistake these things that actually lead to wealth. Tell me more, please.
It's kind of a loaded question. One of the things that I've done, I think a lot in terms of first principles, and I think about reality. versus, and I do a lot of thinking time where I'm sitting thinking about, all right, what's real, what's true. That was my question after I lost everything. I spent a few years in the cycle of grief where you first you disavow everything that's happened, you pretend it didn't happen, and you tell other people and you lie to them, you lie to yourself, and then you get really mad, and then you blame other people, and eventually you take responsibility. And the one of the biggest mistakes is that people tell themselves lies, and they tell themselves lies about what they think, what they've done, who they are. And so I spent 2 years in therapy until I got fired by my therapist asking one question: what is true? And we went deeper and deeper. And if you don't get clear on that, everything else is honestly hopeless, because you're just in a lie. You're living in a lie. And the truth is painful, and it will set you free. The truth about your money. Like I always ask people, all right, let's get real. And I ask them a question like, all right, what are you spending? And I start getting stories. What's your net worth? I start getting stories. I'm like, stop with your stories. Look at your 3 C's, your credit cards, your cash, and your calendar. That's your truth. And they go, no, my truth is based on the Bible. I'm like, no, I get it. But your behaviors, your truth is sitting there in front of you, but you don't want to talk about that. You want to go into philosophy. So the mistakes people make is the primary one is they don't tell themselves the truth. They tell themselves stories. And then if you try to help them, they're too busy telling you a story. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Stop. And so I think people appreciate the ones that are ready. They appreciate those conversations I have where I'll just shut them down. I'm like, shut your mouth. You are literally lying to both of us right now. You're wasting everybody's time. Let's get to the core. And then people go, oh man, nobody's ever said that. They're always just saying, oh, it's okay. It'll be okay. Just try harder. And so that lie, when you blow apart the lie and you say, okay, only truth, everything changes in a heartbeat. That's the primary. There's other nuances and things, but most people are just in the middle of a lie and they wonder why their life sucks or why it's not quite what they want. They don't feel fulfilled. It's because you got to go into the truth. That's where all the juice is.
You know, I the same topic around performance and even being a leader and having employees and the truth is like, where are we? You know, where are we on this project? Where are we on this metric? And there's only one answer, wherever we are.
Right.
But oftentimes what you're saying, what happens is that people, including us, we give a story. And I noticed this about myself many years ago when I was being asked about certain things. And it wasn't that the thing wasn't done and that I was making an excuse for it. I was telling the story because it made me feel validated that the work I had been doing was enough, or that it was good or whatever. I don't really even know. But that's all it was. It was like me just telling a story because, of course, they don't have all the information. If the target's 10 and we're at 7, then we're at 7 and we're missing 3. Like, that's the truth that you're talking about. And why are we missing 3? And let's go find the 3. Where what's the difference between where we're at and where we need to be, as opposed to the story of why we're only at 7 or whatever it is that I was doing to validate any of that. And so I'm not sure if you feel like that connects here, but it feels like that's the same thing that was happening even inside of, different organizations and teams, that we've even coached. It's like, there's this validation. It's like, all it is a story. No. Let's just say what it is. Let's say where we're supposed to be. Let's be honest about the gap. And then let's just create a new plan to go do it. Right.
It really is that simple. And it's also really empowering. And part of this is a cultural thing. You personally, your family, your team, people get so used to living in the fluff and the fuzz, and they don't want to get really clear. I'm like, you guys got to get your eyes checked, get a perception check. And because you're probably not 2010, you're probably 2200, and you're like, oh, it's all right, that's just normal. And you have no idea what's going on. So you just kind of hang out. And there is a huge shift. And the big shift is, Larry Winget said it, your life is your own damn fault. Like, he's the pit bull of personal development. I love his books and things. The titles of his books are the best part, but great content. And the biggest shift is when you say, okay, whatever it is, and it's my responsibility, and I did it. And that was when things started to change in my life. That's when they went from internal, it's all about me consuming, to it's external. It was really saying, okay, I'm going to focus on other people, and the results of that impact are based on my efforts. And I get criticized still today. It's like, oh, you're no fun. I'm like, why? Because big Friday night for me is working on writing a blog post or studying a book for the 18th time, or like, people look at my life different than theirs and they go, well, it's not balanced. I'm like, you're right. There's an obsession. I love my life. It's very seasonal. I'm in a season. Like, when I'm checking out, I have it, but it's very rare. And when I do it, I'm there. That's the season. Most of the time I'm creating it. I'm in love with it. I get up, I can't wait to do my thing.
That's right.
And I know that when people are like there, I can see that where I am today compared to where I was 20 years ago. There I worked, but it wasn't an obsession. I wasn't willing to say that I will do whatever it takes. You rarely hear people say whatever it takes. If I need to be doing something at 10 o'clock at night or on Saturday, I hear almost nobody saying that. I watch some of my team doing that, and I watch the results of their life, not just the output, but the feeling they get of, you know what, I'm living up to my potential. And I'll share something that is really important that I had, the experience I had 10 years ago, right before my dad died. I watched, actually, we had this, our last conversation. We sat there and he just looked at me and it was brutal. He said, you know, there were so many things that I wanted to do. And then we just cried. And it was this moment of regret that he didn't go and tackle his potential and he was about to die with it. And there was nothing that could be done. That's where most people are heading. They're tiptoeing safely to death's door, and they're going to arrive there and they're going to say, crap. And that is the worst possible hell on earth, as opposed to paying the price. You're going to pay the price of regret or the price of discipline. You're paying a price. Don't think you can't. Like, there is no way around it. Like, you're not getting out of death and you're not getting out of one of those prices. And but the question is, are you going to choose or are you going to let it be chosen?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, there's a well here. The options of obsession. Let's just use obsession as the bucket, because you use the word balance in there briefly. And for someone who actually, in our community, we talk about winning in all areas and business, family, marriage, health, faith, lifestyle, but it's definitely not balanced. And it never will be balanced, especially for entrepreneurs. And so I'm glad you kind of brought that up. But a lot of times I feel people hear what you say and go, well, yeah, to be obsessed and to be in a season, okay, cool. But then they just immediately give up on the other things that matter to them. Per what you were just saying, it's like, no. Actually, it just requires another level of obsession. And I actually had to realize this many years ago. I mean, I was all in on my businesses, and I'm rolling up companies, and I'm doing cool stuff in my 20s with this franchise system that I was a part of, and achieving all kinds of amazing things. But on the inside, there's a lot of other things that were dying in me: my health, my marriage, a lot of things. And what I didn't recognize is that it wasn't my obsession in business that needed to come down. It was my obsession in those things that needed to come up. And so just like what you were just describing, am I willing to do whatever it takes to win in business, to win in it's not actually that hard. It just takes the intention of saying, no, I'm all in. Like, there's nothing going to stop me from having this and this and this and this. And whatever those things are for you, it doesn't matter to me. For you, you're not married. Okay, fine. So you don't have to put intention towards that, or maybe you have a relationship, but it still requires the intention of, what do I want? And am I obsessed? Am I willing to do whatever it takes, like you're talking about? What do you like? Is that a born thing? Is that a thing that you came across eventually? Because you said you remember when you weren't all in like that. How do people switch?
Well, one is, it's too damn overwhelming to try to have the obsession with a whole bunch of things at the same time. Like, we're going to be, sure. And so here, one of the things that I didn't pay attention to was my health, and I started getting fat, and I was like, oh man, I was working and I was creating this huge net worth and building companies, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But I'm not, and you get some feedback from blood tests or things, you go, ooh, that's not this isn't good. Because ultimately, I heard Bobby Kennedy say this recently. He said, we have the American dream. We have dreams here, and people have all these dreams, but when you're sick, you only have one dream, and that is to not be sick. And that's unfortunately where most people are, like, honestly, with their health. So what do? You're like, well, I'm an entrepreneur, or I want more wealth, or I don't want to be stressed about money. But I don't want to, my health is important. You create rhythms so you're on autopilot. Like, I eat a certain way. I don't generally think about it. I typically I order the same thing. I always get salmon. I might get a different fish. I generally don't get dessert, or I might have a bite. There are certain things, but those have become automatic. Same thing with relationships. There are rhythms that you have. Like, why do people talk about, maybe you talk about this, but like date night, weekly. Why do people do that? Because it keeps you connected, and you're not going, oh man, I haven't had a date with my spouse or my girlfriend or boyfriend for the last 6 months. No, that's what you do every Thursday. So when you do that, you're not taking up your frontal lobe in your thinking. It's the same problem with people that go, man, I got to remember this. No, your brain is not meant for you to remember. It's meant for you to process. Your brain is like a CPU, not a freaking hard drive. Hard drives, you can just write notes. You can keep track of stuff. Let your brain be the place where you think about things and use all the facilities, subconscious, superconscious. So this obsession, your obsession can be focused on one thing. All the other stuff is happening because you've chosen rhythms and cycles and behaviors that are literally many times on autopilot so that they happen so that you don't turn out to be a fat ass. Like, oh, okay, you know what? That will happen by default because a lot of the fun food is way more fun and you're going to do it unless you have a rhythm and a choice. Right. But it goes back to the alignment. What are your values? What do you actually, if you're really honest, you got to be honest about it. And this goes back to, I'm going to be honest about the truth. I'm not going to lie to myself. And then you really can be obsessed about the one thing, but you may have to be obsessed about your health, get that going. And then you say, okay, that's on autopilot. Like I am a guy that works out 4 or 5 days hard every week. That's what I do. It's who I am. And so I don't go, well, is this a week I work out? No, it's just what I do. Do I eat 2 pieces of cheesecake? No, it's not who I am. And I don't drink. I used to drink. I just not a drinker. And so those choices, I don't think about it. I go out, somebody else is drinking alcohol. I'm like, cool. Doesn't matter to me. I just know who I am. I don't need to do it for them. I know who I am. I do it for me. And it's automatic at this point.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill talks about in his Laws of Success work, this habit force or hypnotic rhythm, even in his interview with the devil, the kind of an interesting book. But we are to become conscious or to be aware of something. Like you said, okay, I need to work on my health, or I need to improve my relationship with my spouse or whatever. And so I'm going to bring aware, I'm going to create a plan, so much so to where there's a rhythm to it. So much so to where the sun's going to come up every single day in the same exact way. That's this hypnotic rhythm. That's this habit force that he's talking about. And so how can I do the things that I say that I want to do, that I know that are good for me, that serve me from here to the target that I'm trying to get to, but put them in the plan in a hypnotic or a rhythmic way, just like you're describing, so that it can just be part of who I am. And I actually, then to your point, I don't have to think about it. This is just who I am. Huge aspect there, but this is like, we're talking like deep success stuff, and people are like, hypnotic rhythm, what are you talking about? But Damien's got it. It's like, just pick the stuff that's the rhythm that makes it make sense and make it easy for you, right?
I'll give you a really funny example. Like I have somebody that helps me keep my house clean. I love them. I realized I'm actually not very good at cleaning. Could I do it? Yeah. Can you do your own laundry? I'm still doing my laundry, and that's dumb. But it's just one of those things. I haven't chosen the thing to take off my plate, so it's a rhythm. But every Tuesday, a couple of people come over and they do this thing. So it's happening as a rhythm. It just happens every week. My house is magically cleaned by these 2 amazing human beings that go and do that. And they're singing and they're speaking. I don't know what it's different language. So I'm like, I don't know what they're saying all day, but they talk and they're having a good time, and it's cool, and it's been taken care of. So I'm not going, oh man, I got to clean my house. And people they don't make the decision, and then they stress about it because who wants to live in a pigsty? I like have this beautiful home that's clean every week, and it's so I don't have to expend any mental energy. The most mental energy is when I get a text once a month and it says, here's your balance for the month, and I Venmo and we're done. And it's this beautiful thing. I set up the rhythm. I have coaches. I have rhythms around those coaches. There's all these rhythms. So I don't think about it. I have systems that help guide me. And one of the things that people will do is they'll say, I don't want that many systems, man. I feel controlled. Like I have no freedom. It's the opposite. When you have those systems, you actually have tons of freedom because you're not thinking about all the crap that you got to do. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the classic, when you walk into the closet, what are you wearing today? And if you've got too many choices, you sit there and you think, I can wear this, and I can wear that, as opposed to, I like this shirt. Give me the 4 colors that I like. These pants, they fit great. Give me 10 of those. And I just pick one and I go. And that gives me what people might say, well, then there's no creativity. There's no this. I go, no. I already decided on the creativity ahead of time. I like this. I like that. Buy a bunch of them. And now I get to make easy decisions. And so it's the same thing, this rhythmic. What should someone do listening right now? And they're thinking, okay, Damien's got just this incredible mindset. He's been this up and down mountain, and now he's successful again. What have you done along the way to create this rhythm for mindset, or to keep the resilience maybe that you have?
Big part of this is constantly checking your boundaries, because we're susceptible to all sorts of influences, and it's asking. I mean, really, the hack. People go, "What do I do first?" I'm like, look around. What is influencing you? Because you're generally going to be whatever that is. Like if you're around toxic people, you're going to be toxic. If you're around fat people, you're going to stay fat. If you're broke people, you're going to be like, if you're around a bunch of people that are worth $1 million, that's cool if that's where you want to be. But if you want to be like, if you want to fly private and you're around a bunch of millionaires, you are going to stay on Southwest Airlines. That's what's going to happen. And I just don't like being molested by TSA. That's why I insist on being on a private jet. That is part of my plan, because I'm like 4 times of having them grab my crotch. I'm like, I'm out. This sucks. This is terrible. It's demoralizing. And there's nothing I can do about it other than, yes, I can. I can shift what I do. It requires more wealth. I got to have a bigger impact. So there's, these are the choices. The environment is the biggest one, and you can do that right now. Question is who you spend time with. And it may be you need to move. You need to move out of your town or your house, or your neighbors are terrible. My neighbor just sent me a text message and said, "Oh, I saw you're moving. I've been meaning to talk to you about your trash cans. They're the homeowners association says that you're supposed to keep these out of sight." And I'm laughing. I was like, man, I am glad I'm moving. I do not need the trash can police being my neighbor. Like this guy never talks to me except the one time he sees a for sale sign. Now he wants to police my trash cans. Who is in your life trying to police your damn trash cans? And that's their support for you. It's not cheering you on for your big win and pushing you hard because they see you have more potential. If you don't have that, if you're not being stretched, the first thing you should be doing is challenging who you spend time with. Now, sometimes that means cutting some ties. Sometimes it just means saying, I'm not willing to let people take me on their agenda ferry. Like I'm going to say, no, here's my boundaries. And putting those processes or those walls up is really important. And then you choose who comes in versus whoever just shows up. Like, is your door open to your house where people just come in? You're like, oh man, I guess just come in and take whatever you want, park your ass. Or is it, I've got a door with a lock and I choose who I invite in? Most people have their door wide open. It's their soul. They just let people take. And you have to be really conscious. And it's a choice, and you can do it today. Very easy action on it. Who am I spending time with and who's missing? And man, all right, you know what? I'm gonna open some space because I got to close some things down.
Yeah, and then like you said, filling up with the people that need to be there. It changes everything when you can reframe things, because you start to believe things that you didn't even know were possible from before. I've seen that obviously happen in our own mastermind community, but even in my own life, when I remember we spent a small, I'm in Kansas City, so Midwest, and it doesn't take too far to get to cows, And I remember we moved to South Florida for just a short bit. We were there for about a year, and I mean the Honda Accord of Kansas City, where all the families have the Honda Accord, it was the Rolls Royce or it was the G Wagon, and everybody's got a $40 million condo on the beach there in Miami where we were, and it was just like I don't even. I mean, I think I knew this money existed, but I didn't see it every day like this, And so for me, that was just like, oh my goodness, this is like, it's like right in front of me. This is incredible. Now, maybe those people are doing businesses that I agree with or not. It doesn't really matter. But the reality of it is that it's out there. And my perspective was changed when I was in that environment. What's next for Damion? What's next for you? Is it FrameTech still? I know you're part of other things, but like, what's the horizon for someone so sharp and with so much success and obviously a strong mindset? You're clearly not done, but what's next?
I'll be done when I'm dead. And it's, literally it's putting it all out there. It's doing it all there. I just read a book called Die with Zero, and it was really interesting to think about that, because a lot of people, and I think this is a huge mistake. They're like, well, I want to have a ton, and then I want to build it up and I want to give it to my kids or something. It's like, why? What do you actually think you're doing that you couldn't do during your life? Why wouldn't you do those things now? And instead of trying to do this, giving up your entire life just to have somebody go do something else later. And so what's next? It's more of this. I used to think more money was important, and then it was like it was good. And I was like, oh, you know what? More money's not good. It's just more. That's how you describe more money. And what does it do? It gives you more options, more fuel, more headaches. It's more of a lot of things, but it's not necessarily more good. So what am I going to keep doing? What am I doing next? I'm doing more of what I'm doing. I mean, like when I wake up, I don't go, it is kind of fascinating, because a lot of people are thinking, what am I doing after what I'm doing? I'm going to trust the universe. I'm going to trust God to help guide me as I'm going through, because I'm not done doing what I'm doing. So I'm not having an affair on what I'm doing, thinking about the next thing. And that's where most people are like fantasizing and daydreaming about, oh man, once I get out of this piece of crap. No, man, I love what I'm doing. I love the people that I'm working with, and the people I don't love, I'm getting rid of. Like I'm literally finding ways to say, nope, I want to spend more time with these people. So what's next? It's more and more time with the people that I love being with, and serving more and more people. And it's doing it through, like, my art, my canvas is FrameTech. It's EQRP, where I'm empowering people with their retirement accounts so that they're not sitting there going, crap, I'm 50, 60 years old. I don't know how I'm going to have enough money to survive. Building a company and a community where people are like, oh, I understand the playbook. I understand how to use my retirement account so that I don't get freaked out about running out of money. It's building that and making a stronger community by pouring myself into it. That's what's next for me. It's more of that because I'm not even close to done.
Yeah, I love that. We've got a phrase I created several years ago inside of Gathering the Kings called grateful, but not done. And there's this ability that we must have. And it's so hard sometimes as ambitious, drivers to be grateful. And I think it's actually probably the baseline of pretty much all of life. If I can find gratefulness, then I've got life figured out. But then for us, particularly, there's that comma, but not done. Because bro, like you said, I'll be done when I'm dead because there's just so much more potential left to be had. There's more mountain to climb, and I'm excited about that. And I think that there's a lot of people out there. In the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty small percentage, but there's a lot of people like you and I listening, at least, that are going to appreciate that. So I appreciate your perspective there. I know you said you had some resources, especially around the retirement stuff. We didn't even have a chance to talk much about that, but I'd love for you just for 30 seconds to talk about what you do in that industry. And I think you got some resources for the listeners, and we'll put all that in the show notes as well. But I want to give you just a second here just to be able to share about that, because I think that's rather important as well.
Well, and what you'll find is if you start poking around, you're like, okay, you're talking about this and that. What's the common thread? Like, what's it all? It's about freedom. It's about taking money out of the equation. Because if you're going to be obsessed with money, you're screwed. Like, I'm just telling you point blank, you'll never be happy. You'll never have enough. It doesn't make. I've seen people that had hundreds of millions of dollars and they were terrible. They were miserable, and nobody wants to be around them. So because that was their God. So what I've done is I've built different businesses, and one of the businesses was giving people control of their retirement accounts. It's called EQRP. And it was the idea that most people's wealth is tied up in 401ks and IRAs. And they're like, all right, I got this thing. It's on autopilot. I hope I have enough money down the road. And that tends to be what they rely on with Social Security. This is a terrible plan because it's very passive. It's kind of like, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have passive sex for the next 20 years. I guarantee your marriage ain't going to last that long because your spouse is like, this sucks. I want you to be active. So same thing with your money. You got to be active. And so the idea here is giving people the ability, the tool, the knowledge, and a community around being active with their money. And then this all this thinking, these tools came together when I said, okay, I've built this stuff. I've seen a lot of people build companies and build wealth. What are the principles? What are the steps? So I boiled it down into something that was digestible, because people get overwhelmed. They look at Tony Robbins' book on money and they're like, it's 700 damn pages. I'm not even going to start. So I said, okay, what can I do that's like 7 pages or less? And so that was what the 10 steps to 10 million was, because I promise 10 million will not only create enough wealth for you, but it'll create you as a new version of yourself that trusts yourself to create. If you just go after 1 million, you can literally stumble your way into 1 million. It's not going to get you there. You're going to be afraid your whole life. But if you stretch yourself into the 10 million, and that's what the 10 steps to 10 million is, it's literally a 10-minute read, and it gives you the essence. And then you're like, oh, it'll make you ask some questions like, could I implement this? Could I do this? It's not about go buy a life insurance policy. You're not going to see those type of, but you're going to see some things that I think about all the time. When I went from 0 to millionaire to -5 million to million to 10 million to 100 million, building $1 billion company. Like this is my process. This is not theory. This is reality. And so what it came down to was saying, what is this? It's turnkey retirement. It's a place where you take money out of the equation. So literally you go to turnkeyretirement.com, download this thing, and it gives you the essence of what all these things are. It's taking money out of the equation so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. Money just is, it's this fuel and a side effect and options, but it is, if it's ever the focus of your life, you're already dead.
Yeah, I think we hear that loud and clear, and I think that like you said, it kind of resonates throughout multiple things that you're doing. I think it's just so great. We'll put all that in the show notes as well. I think that 10 steps to 10 million. I mean, I don't know of a listener that shouldn't go grab that. So please don't be silly. Grab a 10-page book on 10 steps to 10 million bucks. Damion, if you had a chance to just whisper in the younger Damion's ear, I don't know, 18, 25. I mean, I don't know what age it is, but what would you tell them?
Find something. And I heard this recently, and I totally resonated with it. In my 20s, I would have tried more things. I would have been more curious about things and not just chasing money. And I would have sooner than later let go of what other people thought about me. I would have been more ridiculous. I would have traveled more. I would have gone after, and I would have volunteered to be an apprentice to somebody, and instead of saying, well, how much money can I get out of this company? And people would have said, you're crazy. And I would have been cool. Yes, that's what I want to hear versus, oh man, I don't want to be crazy. My parents think I'm an idiot for dropping out of college and then getting thrown out 4 times. that would have been way okay. Because the further you get down the road towards not caring what other people think about you, the closer you get to freedom. The more you think about what people are thinking about you, you're literally in mental prison. And that would have been the thinking earlier. It's a powerful thing for every single person to get obsessed about something that matters when you're serving other people and not what people are thinking about you. That's a no-win game, and you're literally going to live in prison.
Yeah, I love that. If someone wants to connect with you, should they go to your website? Should they go to your social media? Where can they find you specifically and learn more about you and just all the things you got your hand into?
I think going to turnkeyretirement.com and getting that thing, you'll find yourself where I'll communicate with you. And if you say that's too much, you can always say, no, I don't want any more. But that's how you're gonna find me. The stuff that I do, where my podcast, FU, Financial Underdogs, that's where I'm going to rant and share my stuff, and you'll get, when I release something, you'll get that. So the entry point is turnkeyretirement.com, and then you'll see the stuff that I'm involved with. And my hope is that you look at it, whether you're like, oh, I care about framing, or I don't give a crap about housing, you'll see what's possible when you go and you chase a mission, when you let go of the money. It's a way of doing business. It's a way of caring about people. That's the purpose. It's a model for the future. And that's what I'm hoping people will take out of it.
Yeah, so good. Damion, I appreciate you, man. I have so many more questions. I'm just a curious individual, and our mindset. If I could just osmose more from you, I know personally that would be just make my day. Blessings to you and everything that you're touching in 2025. Thanks for bringing just the energy, man, just the passion. I know you're more on purpose than passion, but man, you spoke out of passion here today, and I'm excited about that. Thanks for being on purpose and intentioned. Everything that you've done, man, looking back, even telling the story here today, I'm sure it's going to unlock some folks. I know it's given me plenty of things just to be like, man, this is incredible. I'm doing this and this right, and I need to make some adjustments over here. So thank you for all of that and pouring out to myself and to the audience today. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you for listening to Driven to Win. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe: that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.